European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen recently went on a short trip to Japan, where on July 23rd, she and Prime Minister Ishiba announced closer economic and security cooperation between the European Union and Japan. And now to talk about Japan's role in tackling global challenges, I am joined by the former Japanese ambassador to Poland, Mr. Akio Miyajima. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to TVP World.
Great pleasure.
Mr. Ambassador, I want to start with a quote from European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen during her trip to Japan recently. And she said, "We will work more closely together to counter economic coercion and to address unfair trade practices." Is she talking about US tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump?
Well, I can't say that. Please ask her what she meant by that. And especially that they visited Beijing after Tokyo. So maybe that's what they meant. But we really firmly believe in the free trade and the system. So that there's a really good reason for us to strengthen our economic dialogue and also the collaborations based on this principle. And so I'm very, very happy to see this very successful 30th summit between Japan and the EU.
So can you tell us what exactly does closer economic and security cooperation mean? Can we expect some more investments, for example?
Well, there's no investment kind of figures announced, but this defense industry's dialogue is a quite new area that they mentioned. But economic security is a very, very important issue facing both of us, and also that because we had a wonderful Japan-EU EPA, and which is really kind of strengthening our trade and investment relationship. And
can you just for our viewers tell us what EPA means?
Well, it is a more advanced kind of the more sophisticated part of the free trade agreement, which really is that encompass many areas to improve the kind of investment opportunities as well. And also that we have a security SPA that kind of agreement as well. So based on that our economic and also security relations have been steadily strengthened. And then the Ukrainian situation certainly that made sure that security in Europe and then Asia is so interconnected. And then Japan has been, of course, in solidarity with Ukraine and the EU to support Ukraine from the beginning, day one.
The visit by Commission President von der Leyen comes only days after Japan has struck a deal with the United States to set the tariffs at 15%. And reportedly, the European Union is closing in on a similar deal to also set the tariffs at 15%. Do you think it's a good deal for Japan and the European Union?
I think that because I was away from Tokyo, so I can't tell for sure. But many people must have felt that they are kind of relieved to see that the kind of the agreement was struck before that August 1st, because uncertainty, a huge kind of level of uncertainty, really created a very difficult situation for many business communities and also the general public, and so. Once that the things are getting clearer, they can prepare, they can talk about what kind of thing they should do to reduce the cost or the sharing the costs. And then I'm quite sure that whatever happened, agreed between Japan and the United States should have an impact on other deals that the US is going to try to make. So that, of course, nobody knows that what is going to happen between EU and the United States. But I really do hope that this will be a good agreement, and then to be implemented faithfully, and then somehow that reduce the kind of this uncertainty. And I think one of the very important message that agreed upon between EU leader and Japanese leader is that we really try to come up with the kind of the mechanism or system which is predictable, rule-based, free and open system. And then
It's a much needed stability, right, in times of uncertainty.
But that's why that the Japan and EU, as a like-minded countries, in security and also in economic terms, have to work together and much strengthen the relationship. So that this that competitiveness alliance, that agreement which was announced, is very, very encouraging. So especially those agreement was made before their visit to Beijing. Well, I think strategically it was really good. And then we really do hope that the American side also that respect that what Japan and the EU is trying to achieve. And then this is nothing anti-United States, but we would like to work together with them. But at the same time, we are very clear what we believe in. Yeah.
We'll talk more about Ukraine in just a moment, but for now I want to come back to the visit by von der Leyen to Japan. Another part of the announcement was closer security cooperation, and this comes at a time when the European Union is trying to invest more into its own industries. An example with the safe loan mechanism. So where is Japan in all of this?
Well, that Japan that surrounded by about difficult neighbors, and also we need to prepare for that potential contingencies. So that we have revised our national security strategy, and based on that, we have been strengthening our defense capabilities. And then one of the very important components is, of course, we are trying to beef up our defense spending, maybe to 2% of the GDP. And but maybe that if it requires more, or then we have to do more. And then so we are paying very close attention to what Europeans are seriously now tackling. But at this moment, we don't have come up with any kind of financing mechanism or whatever. But I'm quite sure that in the defense equipment area or the strategy area, also that the relationship with NATO, I think there are many areas Japan and the EU and the European countries can strengthen our cooperation.
Poland, for example, buys the bulk of its defensive equipment from the United States, but also from South Korea, as it's usually the cheaper but still very reliable option when it comes to defense equipment. Do you think that Japan will try to tap into that market and maybe consider more competitive prices?
It is not just about the price, but I think that we had a kind of rather restrictive kind of the regulations that are regarding the defense equipment export and also defense technology cooperation. And a bit different from maybe the South Korea. And that's one thing. But at the same time, we have very advanced technologies in those weaponry systems, and also these days the cyberspace, and also space as well. So there are many areas that I think we can collaborate. And then before that, we should compare notes about the situation. And your Polish chief of defense that visited Japan, and Mr. Sikorski visited Japan. And then so security cooperation between Japan and Poland is one of the very important area I think we can develop. And then Poland must have acquired a lot of experience helping Ukrainians fighting against Russia. So definitely that Japan should learn from Poland and also European countries' experience, because anything could happen anywhere.
Speaking of Ukraine, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine. One of Russia's biggest allies is China, which is recently becoming more and more involved with the conflict. How important is Japan in all of this, in facing this growing cooperation between Russia and China? And is it fair to say, do you believe, that Japan is a sort of a stronghold of democracy in the region where these values are becoming increasingly under threat?
Sure. Well, that's why we have been keep supporting the Ukrainians and also the Western countries that support for Ukrainians. That because this is a direct threat to the challenge to the basic principle of the United Nations and democracy and freedom. And then Japan has been promoting free and open the international regime in Indo-Pacific called the PIFE, FOIP, free and open Indo-Pacific. And then, so this rule-based kind of international order is so important to defend and respect. And then, so Japan certainly is not providing the military assistance, but we have been providing a lot of the huge amount of the economic and financial assistance so that the Ukrainian can keep fighting. And we have been imposing the toughest sanctions against Russia, and then working together with other like-minded Western countries, and it will remain so. And then so again, that as a really like-minded comrades and allies, and then well, we would like to continue our effort, and then otherwise the wrong lesson to be learned by somebody.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned sanctions because recently US President Donald Trump imposed an ultimatum on Russia saying that if they don't agree to a ceasefire in 50 days, then the US will unleash the full force of its economic sanctions, including secondary sanctions, which would target countries such as China. Do you believe that these sanctions can actually bring Russia to the negotiating table and bring the so-awaited ceasefire?
I don't know whether it really works, depending on the way and also mechanism of the implementation of the sanctions. But it is true. It is true that there could be some loopholes, and also those kind of maybe dual-use goods, and then. Well, the country like China is mentioned quite often as enablers. So without those countries, Russia cannot keep fighting. So
do you think that Japan could also join in on these secondary sanctions on China?
I can't say so at this moment, but if it's in line with what we have been doing together, well, why not?
Last but not least, I want to ask you about all these global challenges we have right now. We have the US tariffs, we have the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, China is looking towards Taiwan. Where do you think that European individual countries stand in all of this? Like, for example, Poland, in all these global challenges, in your expertise as the former Japanese ambassador to Poland?
Well, that we have witnessed that a really brave and a very positive role that the humanitarian role, or sort of this kind of military assistance to help Ukrainians, and so we believe that that those Central European countries are great role models for the other countries in the world. So not only just those kind of things, that are very steady economic growth. Based on democracy and freedom, very important. So that's what I've been advocating in that after I go back to Japan. Well, this Central European region is the kind of last frontier in Europe. Well, so don't miss the bus, and then we should come over here and then do something. But at the same time, we really do hope that the people like Polish people that could visit Japan. Now that we are having Osaka Expo, and then discover Japan again. Well, that we are very, very good, friendly, and strategic kind of partnership, and there are many things that we can work together, and in economic, culture, and in security. And then as a former ambassador to Poland, I firmly believe in the potential. And so, although that we have a challenge, many challenges, global challenges or the other challenges, but I think we can work together and then we can resolve it. Japan is, for example, the hosting what they call the TICAD. This is a summit meeting between Japan and Africa. So reaching out to those global south is more and more important for us to resolve any kind of issues. And I'm quite sure that Poland has a very, very unique role you can play to outreach. And we are going to do ourselves that in our region and also as a G7 country. And so we can really compare notes and work together. So now in Warsaw, that I'm very happy to see that, well, still very vibrant economy and with many people's very good smiles, wonderful weather, and because Tokyo is 35 degrees and then maybe huge humidity. So very happy summer season. So I'm very happy.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for speaking with us. This was Akio Miyajima, former Japanese ambassador to Poland. My name is Kazimierz Łysiak, and you're watching TVP World.